Welcome to Global Marketing, Chapter number 15, Unit number 10, The Digital Revolution and the Global E-Marketplace. This unit looks at innovations that led to the digital revolution, convergence and disruptive nature of internet technology, e-commerce and website categories, and new product and services. The digital revolution, a brief history. In 1947, William Stockley and two colleagues at AT&T's Bell Laboratories invented a solid-state amplifier or transistor as it became known. This was a critical innovation because the vacuum tubes that were used in computers and electronic products at that time were large, consumed a large amount of power, and generated a great deal of heat. Stockley and collaborators John Braden and William Brattain were awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1956 for their invention. Between 1937 to 1942, world's first electronic digital computer was developed at Iowa State University. In 1947, the transistor was invented. In 1950s, the invention of silicon chip took place. In 1970s, the decade for companies like Atari, Apple, Commodore started. In 1981, IBM introduced its first personal computer. In 1982, the 286 processors were unveiled. In 1984, Apple introduced the Macintosh, and in 1993, the creation of Pentium processors took place. Some additional milestones. The internet can trace its origin back in 1969. The email was sent for the first time in 1972. The creation of a cross network protocol, the true birth of a network of networks or the internet, took place in 1973. Tim Berners Lee invented URL, HTML, and HTTP in 1993, and people started using websites more commonly in 1990s. Industry convergence. The coming together of previously separate industries and product categories. In the 1990s, telephones, consumer electronics, photography, and computers were all separate, whereas in 2010, they all came together. Value networks and disruptive technologies. The innovator's dilemma. Value network, sustaining technologies, and disruptive technologies. Let's have a look at each of them in more detail. Innovator's dilemma. In an era when environmental scanning, strategic planning, and other conceptual tools discussed throughout this course are widely known and used, how is it that managers at many companies have failed to respond to change in a timely manner? According to Harvard professor Clayton Christensen, the problem is that executives become so committed to a current profitable technology that they fail to provide sufficient levels of investment in new, apparently riskier technologies. Ironically, companies fall in this trap by adhering to prevailing marketing orthodoxy, namely listening to and responding to the needs of the established customers. Clayton Christensen calls this situation the innovator's dilemma. The innovator's dilemma comes from staying committed to a current profitable technology, failing to provide sufficient levels of investment to new and possibly risky technologies, and company responding to the needs of established customers. Value network. Each network has its own matrix of value. For example, for laptop computers, the matrix are small size, low weight, and power consumption, and rugged design. For example, during the 1980s, customers who bought portable computers were willing to pay a premium for smaller size. Buyers of mainframe computers did not value this attribute. Conversely, mainframe buyers valued, that is, were willing to pay for more memory capacity as measured by megabytes. Portable computer buyers placed less value on this attribute. In short, the value network for mainframe computers and portable computers are different. Value network is found in every industry. It is the cost structure that dictates the margins needed to achieve profitability. The boundaries are defined by the unique rank ordering of the importance of various product attributes. Each network has its own matrix of value. Sustaining technologies. As firms gain experience within a given network, they are likely to develop capabilities, organizational structures, and cultures tailored to the distinctive replacements of their respective value networks. The industry's dominant firms, typically with reputations as well-managed firms, lead in developing and or adopting sustaining technologies, that is incremental or radical innovations that improve product performance. According to Christensen, most new technologies developed by established companies are sustaining in nature. Indeed, the vast majority of innovations are of this type. Incremental or radical innovations that improve the product performance. Most new technologies developed by established companies today are sustaining in nature. The vast majority of innovations are sustaining in nature. The example of sustaining technologies could be the new iPhone or the new Samsung phone or a more faster laptop. Disruptive technologies. New entrants to an industry lead in developing disruptive technologies that redefine performance. The benefits associated with disruptive technologies go beyond enhancing product performance. Disruptive technologies enable something to be done that was previously deemed impossible. Disruptive technologies typically enable new markets to emerge. As Clayton Christensen explains, an innovation that is disrupting to one firm can be sustaining to another firm. The internet was sustaining technology to Dell computers, which already sold PCs direct by telephone. But it was disruptive technology to Compaq, whose major distribution channel was retailers. Companies depend on customers and investors for resources. The best innovations are user driven. Paradoxically, however, if management listens to established customers, opportunities for disruptive innovations may be missed. So, for example, many people did not realize that they have a need for a smartphone or even a car back in the day. Small markets don't solve the growth needs of large companies. Small organizations can most easily respond to the opportunities for growth in a small market. The fact may require large organizations to create independent units to pursue new technologies, for example, as IBM did in developing its PC. Markets that do not exist can't be analyzed. Clayton Christensen recommends that companies embrace agnostic marketing. This is the explicit assumption that no one, not company personnel, not the company's customers, can know whether, how, or in what quantities a disruptive product can or will be used before they have experienced using it. An organization's capabilities redefine its disabilities. Technology supply may not equal market demand. Some products offer a greater degree of sophistication than market requires. For example, developers of accounting software for small business overshot the functionality requirement of the market, thus creating an opportunity for a disruptive software technology that provided sufficient, not superior, functionality and was simple and more convenient to use. This was the opportunity seized by Scott Cook, developer of QuickBooks. So, disruptive technologies redefine performance. They are usually enabled by new entrants to an industry. They enable something to be done that was previously deemed impossible, and they enable new markets to emerge. An example of the disruptive technology is email. Before emails, people used to write letters to each other. But what email did, or what usually any disruptive technology does, is that number one, it changes the consumption pattern, and number two, it makes the existing technology obsolete or irrelevant. As soon as email came, people started writing emails more frequently to each other than they were writing letters to each other. Thus, the consumption pattern changed. Similarly, after the arrival of emails, the postal services faced huge losses. Global e commerce. Global e commerce is divided into three broad categories: business to consumers, and consumer to consumers, that is, peer to peer. The internet penetration is highest in Korea, the US, China, and Europe. Technology forecast. Travel booked over the internet represents the largest e commerce category. Revenues totaled 68 billion in 2005 and reached over 104 billion by 2010. Over the years, people are buying property, using the internet to generate new kinds of currency, and many other things. Websites. Websites can be classified by purpose. There are promotion sites to promote goods and services, there are content sites that provide news and entertainment, and there are transaction sites that allow customers to purchase goods and services. Categories of websites. When studying the categories, keep in mind that overall the internet can be used as an advertising channel, as a public relation tool, as means of running a new contest or sales promotion, and a support for personal selling effort. In quadrant 1, the focus is on providing information and service to domestic or local country consumers. In quadrant 2, companies such as iTunes Music Store maintain transaction oriented e commerce sites with a domestic focus. Companies in both quadrant 1 and 2 do attract international traffic, but the focus is still local. For example, international students at your college may have learned about your school via the internet. Companies that initially fall into quadrant 1 and 2 can transition into quadrant 3 and 4. For example, in 2004, Apple's iTunes Music Store was rolled out in Germany, France, and United Kingdom. Non transaction websites. Some products are not suitable for internet sales, for example, McDonald's. Some companies limit website to promotion and information. The overall infrastructure of online sales is over. Some products are best sold in stores. Luxury goods producers like Burberry, Prada, Gucci want a shopping experience that adds to the brands, so websites don't really sell much. Globally, the importance of being present on the internet is recognized. Managers may buy banner ads that are evaluated through click through rates. Paid search advertising is very common these days. The long tail, which refers to the fringe sales aggregate to drive meaning income. Amazon iTunes can offer esoteric products that brick and mortar stores find difficult to carry. Creating websites. It requires you to register a country specific domain name, localize the website in the native language and business nomenclature for the target market, reflect local culture, customs, and aesthetic preferences. You need to be careful about the privacy issues. The European Union has strict laws and were adopted from Canada, Australia, and Asia. And you also need to create a distribution system. Broadband. An example of the effects of broadband include traditional telephone network offered quite limited bandwidth compared to the state of the art digital telephone network. As a result, a traditional telephone call sounds lo-fi. Bandwidth is measured in bytes per second. A full page of English text is about 16,000 bits. You need to ensure that you have sufficient capacity to carry multiple voice, data, or video channels simultaneously. Bandwidth determines the range of frequency that can pass over transmission channel. A strong broadband creates opportunities for streaming, audio, video, and media, online gaming, online education, medical diagnostics and treatment, and e commerce. Streaming audio allows users to listen to the internet radio station. Streaming video is a sequence of moving images that are sent in compressed form over the internet and displayed by the viewer as they arrive. And these days, Facebook live streaming and YouTube live streaming have become extremely important. And similarly, online gaming and virtual gaming has become a recognized sport. Mobile commerce. Mobile commerce refers to conducting commercial transactions using wireless handled devices such as cell phones. Wi-Fi networks have limited range. Smart cell phones. Over 1 billion cellular handsets are sold annually. New features like camera provide an incentive for upgrades. SMS texting is expected to move to digital TV, the internet, and email, and already we have moved to WhatsApp. GPS allows for location based advertising. Internet phone service. Thanks to a technology known as Voice over Internet Protocol, the human voice can be digitalized and broken into data packets that can be transmitted over the internet and converted back into normal speech. If a call is placed to a conventional phone, it must be switched from the internet to a traditional phone network. Local telephone companies generally own the lines into residents and businesses. However, if the call is made between two subscribers to the same voice over internet protocol, it bypasses the traditional network altogether. This is what happens when we call through WhatsApp. And this is the next big thing for the telecommunication industry. It has potential to render the current telecommunication infrastructure obsolete. Currently, only a small amount of people are using internet to make phone calls, but this trend is likely to change very soon. Digital books and electronic reading devices like Amazon Kindle or different kinds of tablets are becoming more common, and students are using them to read articles, journals, and books. Sony's Reader Digital Book is also becoming very famous. Kindle is already test marketing the device with textbooks. However, there are some piracy concerns by authors. This marks the end of this chapter and also marks the end of this course. Thank you very much.